Welcome to the Zone 7 Gardening Virtual Plant Clinic. Today, our topic is multi-season showy blooming shrubs. Say that fast, it's a tongue twister. And as you can see, we are going to talk about Itea, virginica, and Physocarpus opulifolius, common Ninebark, Virginia Sweetspire. The Zone 7 Garden Virtual Plant Clinics series highlight native and other plants suited to grow well in our Mid-Atlantic USDA hardiness Zone 7 gardens. These series of clinics are sponsored by the Virginia Cooperative Extension program of Virginia's two land-grant universities, Virginia Tech and Virginia State University. Next, let's turn to our main topic for today's virtual plant clinic, multi-season showy blooming shrubs with Anne and Nancy. Over to you, Anne, for part one, Itea virginica, Virginia Sweetspire.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Itea virginica is also called Virginia Sweetspire or Virginia willow. It's a deciduous shrub native to the United States from New Jersey to eastern Texas, and that includes hardiness zones 7 through 9. This shrub's typical nature is along habitats of streams and wet meadows. It prefers wet, moist, rich, slightly acidic soils, high in organic matter. But it is adaptable to a wide range of soil compositions and pH. Once it's established, it can also tolerate drought conditions. It's a wonderful understory shrub that depends upon the cultivar. It grows between 5 to 8 feet tall and 3 to 6 feet wide. Its roots sucker, allowing it to spread to form dense plantings that is valuable for erosion control. And it grows pretty fast, especially in moist soil. Virginia Sweetspire is considered a valuable landscape plant because of its fragrant early summer flowers that attracts butterflies and pollinators, and its leaves that have good fall color. It's a plant with multi-season interest and something we gardeners always look for. It's adaptable and grow in a variety of light and soil conditions. And it's low maintenance and is relatively pest-free, ideal for gardeners. It's also a great deer-resistant native. Experts suggest using Virginia Sweetspire as a replacement for many invasive shrubs, including Japanese barberry, Nandina domestica, and burning bush. Virginia Sweetspire prefers partial shade or dappled sunlight. However, it flowers best in an area where it gets 4 to 6 hours of full sun. And this full sun results in more vibrant colors and better blooms. While Sweetspire prefers slightly acidic soil with a pH between 6 to 6.8, it will grow in a much wider range of soils, including clay, loamy, and sandy soil types. When consider planting, consider the fertility and porosity of your soil. For example, fertile, loamy, well-drained, moist soil needs no soil amendments. For clay and poor quality soil, consider adding some organic matter, such as aged compost or a good planting mix into the native soil. And experts suggest adding 1 part compost to 3 parts native soil when you plant. Dig your planting hole at least 2 to 3 times wider, but no deeper than the root ball of your plant. So how do you plant this? Like most plants, when you plant, you dig the hole and you use one hand to hold your plant straight as your other hand starts to backfill the soil around the root ball, tapering down a little bit to remove the air pockets. When you've planted about halfway, add water to soak in the soil, and then continue adding your soil to the top edge of your root ball. But don't cover over where the root was additionally in your container. After you finish that, deeply water your plant. it needs the water to get established. After you plant, add 1 to 2 inches of layer of aged mulch or pine straw around the planting area. Now, like all other plants, do not pile the mulch directly against the trunk or the stem of your plant, as this will cause the bark to rot, leading to destroying the plant you just put down. The mulch or the straw helps to conserve your moisture in your plant, and it suppresses weed growth. Now, some people ask about using freshly chipped wood as mulch, and gardeners tend to avoid using fresh wood chips for several reasons. One, fresh chips can emit a volatile organic compound that are toxic to plants. And two, while fresh chips are high in carbon, they are low in nitrogen. And the soil microbes use that available nitrogen to break down the wood chips. Thus, they compete with the nitrogen the mulch would add to your plant roots. So fresh chips, don't do that. It's best to use compost or aged wood chips as a mulch or soil amendment. So let's talk about the flowers. They're 3 to 6 inches long on bottle brush-like flower clusters that are called racemes. The top photo shows a single cluster, so you can imagine how magnificent the entire shrub can look. The flowers open from the base to the top of the raceme over several weeks. And depending upon the cultivar, the racemes can be erect or can droop gracefully over the foliage. Flowers bloom on previous season's growth. We call it old wood. So if you need to shape or reduce the size of a Virginia Sweetspire, prune it after it's flowered. In the bottom photo, it shows the fruit, which are slim, light tanned capsules about 1/3 inch long, and these appear from August to October. The plant can be propagated by cuttings or division. The easiest way is to take the cuttings in late summer to early fall and root them in a mix of 3 parts perlite or 1 part peat, keeping the cutting moist but not wet. Cuttings need about 4 weeks to root and do so readily with or without root hormone. Another way is a division of suckers, and this can be done easily in the fall by snipping the sucker roots and freeing it from the mother plant and then replanting those roots. The third way is you can collect seeds in late summer or early fall, remove them from the capsule. As you see in the lower picture on the left, the seeds are tiny in relevance to the capsule. The seeds will germinate best if sown thinly in flat soil and placed in a greenhouse. The seeds don't need any pre-treatment, so if you need to delay your planting, store them in a sealed, refrigerated container. Sweetspire is considered a semi-evergreen because its leaves remain on the branches until temperatures fall between 15 and 20 degrees Fahrenheit. So their leaves turn into their fall colors between October and December, with a peak leaf color in November. The leaf color vary and depends upon the cultivar and how much sun you get that plant. Plants that get at least 6 hours of sun per day will have the most vibrant fall colors. With showy spring flowers, lush green summer foliage, and vibrant fall colors, the Sweetspire provides high ornamental value in the garden landscape. The abundant flowers are beneficial to butterflies and other pollinators, and its fruit and seeds are good food source for songbirds. And because of its suckering habit, the Virginia Sweetspire is very useful for erosion control, particularly near streams or moist areas. It tolerates flooding and wet soils and makes it ideal for restoring banks, especially those along waterways, from erosion, and for plantings along shorelines or in rain gardens. In the landscape garden, Virginia Sweetspire is a versatile plant. They can be used as a single specimen, in borders, in mass plantings, as foundation plants, and in a mixed shrub and perennial borders, as well as informal woodland settings. You can see in the photo on the right the impact that a high mass planting as a border or a small hedge can have. Planted as a single specimen in a more naturalized setting, such as a woodland or rain garden, creates a visual point of interest. As a foundation plant or in a mixed shrub and perennial border, adding companion plants helps to complement and fill in empty spaces. In particular, if the selected Sweetspire cultivar is a bit tall, use low companion plants in front to fill in this space close to the ground. But we do have cultivars that can be used as an edging along a walkway. These are the dwarf varieties. So the cultivars we have started in 1982, and the species plant is a great plant, a great native. Plant cultivation folks have created about a dozen cultivars, and they are commercially available. You can select these for fall color, form, and size. And you can see them listed. The top three with the stars really provide excellent fall colors and are generally easy to find in garden centers. Henry's Garnet has received several awards because of its habit, floral display, and purple color. The large flowers and leaves turn a consistent reddish purple in the fall, and the leaves persist until temperatures fall below 15 degrees Fahrenheit. Little Henry is a dwarf form of Henry's Garnet, and it's a really great choice for homeowners who have a smaller garden. It grows only 2 or 3 feet high and wide and has 3 to 4 inch long flowers. The foliage turns red and orange in the fall and in the autumn and makes an excellent high ground cover. Merlot is also a dwarf form. It grows 3 to 4 feet tall and wide and has a wine fall color leaves that persist well into winter. Its mounding habit looks particularly attractive as a mass plant. Now, some of the other cultivars, like Scarlet Beauty, has a high tolerance for higher pHs. Beppu spreads and suckers readily, so it's great for erosion control. Sarah Eve is a real beauty that has distinctly pink flower blooms. Scentlandia has a stronger flower fragrance, and Shirley Compact grows only 18 inches tall. And this is great planting along walkways. So to plant some companions with the Sweetspire, consider natives like the Callicarpa americana, the American beautyberry, which grows 4 to 6 feet tall and wide, and generally develops a rounded shape with long arching branches and light green foliage. Their appeal is the very showy flower clusters in the spring and the purple or white berries produced in the late summer and fall. Beautyberry is also deciduous, perennial, and its pale leaves turn pale chartreuse before dropping in the fall, but the large berry clusters persist. Now, you need to allow lots of room for this large sprawling plant, and be warned that the Japanese variety is considered invasive. Next, let's look at heuchera or corabelts, sometimes known as alum roots. These prefer moist, well-drained soils, and they're a wonderful addition to your garden, especially if you want bold, colorful foliage. Heuchera come in a wonderful array of hues that complement most any landscape. The lighter colored varieties stand out nicely in a shaded garden. Heuchera are perennials and there are more than 50 species native to North America. Next up is our native viburnum, a large group of more than 150 species and cultivars. They're deciduous and evergreen shrubs and small trees. Fall color varies from yellow to purple and red, and it prefers part shade, is heat tolerant, and tolerates wet soil. They're a wonderful Zone 7 native. And our last companion that we're going to talk about is Styrax americanus, commonly called American snowbell. It's a deciduous shrub or small tree that typically grows 6 to 10 feet tall. It's noted for its showy bell shape and mildly fragrant 1/2 inch long white flowers that bloom April to early June. American snowball is suited to grow in moist and wet areas in the garden. It's great for woodland gardens and native plant areas, and it's a host for the Promethea moth. So if you're looking for a native landscape shrub that attracts pollinators and is deer resistant and has great looking flowers and good fall color, consider Virginia's Sweetspire. With its light and soil adaptability, chances are that you have a spot for this low maintenance and pest-free native shrub in your garden. And here are some additional resources if you want to read up on this wonderful plant. Back to you, Elizabeth.
Okay, thank you, Anne. It's always wonderful to hear a true gardening expert give advice on planting. I think I learned more from you today about planting than I have from all the books I've read, and I really appreciate it. And we also appreciate all the wonderful information on this very beautiful and extremely showy shrub, Virginia Sweetspire. And again, thank you to Jenny for generating most of the content that Anne has presented. Now we're going on to the next part 2 of our Celebrate Multi-Season Showy Blooming Shrubs. Nancy will share information on Physocarpus opulifolius, common ninebark. Over to you, Nancy.
Thank you, Elizabeth. This is a great companion plant to the sweetspire. It's also a native of Virginia, and it's also called Atlantic ninebark. It grows from Quebec through Tennessee and is hardy to Zone 2. It's a wonderful choice for homeowners looking for a native plant to add to their landscapes. It is a deciduous, multi-stemmed perennial bush of medium size, up to 10 feet tall, and offers 4 seasons of interest. This picture shows a mature bush just beginning to bloom. The ninebark's natural habitat is hillsides, stream banks, or moist thickets, but it is tolerant of a wide range of growing conditions, including soil types, sun exposure, moisture ranges. It grows moderately quickly, is disease and insect resistant, and it's drought tolerant. Several cultivars are available commercially. You can propagate it by seed in the fall or by semi-hardwood cuttings. The leaves are alternate and simple, with 3 to 5 pointed lobes. They are dark green and hairy above, but a paler green underneath. Up at the top, you can see some undersides. They change to yellow or bronze in the fall, but it's not really noted for its fall color. A bud is shown on the picture to the left. You can just see the scales that have been protecting the flower at the base of the yellow-green emerging flower. The flowers are cymes, which is a flower cluster with a central stem with a single terminal flower that develops first. Then the other flowers in the cluster develop as terminal buds of stems. Each flower is white or pale pink, perfectly symmetrical. The picture on the right shows both open flowers and unopened buds. You can see it's truly a beautiful cluster. Ninebark blooms in May or June. This is a great picture of the fruit. Each pointed follicle grows in groups of 3 to 5 in hemispherical clusters. They change to a bright red-brown and split open when they're ripe. You can pick the seeds or leave them for the birds, who absolutely adore them. Matter of fact, you can see some that have already been eaten. The intriguing bark is how the ninebark got its name. As the woody growth ages, the bark splits and exfoliates in long strips. These strips can be yellow, orange, or red-brown, peeling back in layers and offering lots of winter interest. Ninebark is a member of the Rosaceae or rose family. It is easy to transplant and can be grown from seed or semi-hardwood cuttings. It can be pruned after blooming or cut to the ground in winter to rejuvenate it. With its 4-season interest and excellent adaptability, it is a great candidate for your home landscape. If you'd like to read up on Physocarpus opulifolius, try some of these resources. Back to you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Nancy, for that wonderful presentation. And I think we all agree that common ninebark is very showy, especially those beautiful white blooms. And thanks for sharing the information about the 4-season interest. It has something to offer every season, certainly a good choice for your garden. In July, there's still time to make the most of the growing season. And you can go ahead and replace those failing plants, the ones that just did not take it all, and buy some more and fill in the empty spots in your garden. You can begin hilling your root crops, such as carrots and potatoes. Pull dirt up around the plants to keep the vegetables growing beneath of the ground fully covered. Start supporting your tall plants with stakes or plant cages. If you don't stake them, the stems will break and the produce will fall to the ground. And then produce on the ground is susceptible to pests and disease, and definitely more difficult to harvest. With the beginning of hottest days of the growing season, it's important to start watering deeply in the morning. And if you haven't mulched yet, remember that mulch is a best friend during the heat of the season. And it will help retain water and keep your plants from drying out. Check out the Fairfax County Master Gardeners website. You can see the URL circled on this slide. Follow us along on Instagram at fairfax.masters.gardeners and search for monthly gardening articles. Check out our past presentations from our virtual plant clinics on the VCE-Fairfax County YouTube site. Thank you for attending and happy gardening. Hope to see you again in a future plant clinic as we talk about seasonal gardening topics.